Randy Orton deserves to retire heel John Cena, not simply because of legacy or revenge, but because he represents the perfect foil for the version of Cena that the WWE Universe is now forced to endure. This isn't the battle of heroes that once defined their rivalry. It's the collision of two veterans, both battered by time, but only one truly transformed by it. Cena's turn to the dark side, a move that would have shocked the world a decade ago, now feels like a calculated betrayal, not of the fans, but of everything he once claimed to stand for. And Orton? He's seen it all before. He's fought through the cheers and the boos, walked through fire and fame, and emerged as the only man left with a grounded sense of self. His mission isn't just about revenge or competition anymore. It's about ending the farce. Cena's new persona reeks of desperation. His actions at WrestleMania 41, involving Travis Scott and underhanded tactics to take the title from Cody Rhodes, paint a picture of a man clinging to relevance. He used to preach hustle, loyalty, and respect, but now he embodies manipulation, arrogance, and delusion. That's not evolution. That's erosion. Meanwhile, Orton has done what few can in this industry: grow without losing authenticity. He's a heel when the moment demands it, and a hero when the crowd wills it, but he never sacrifices his identity. He doesn't chase spotlight for its own sake. He lets the spotlight find him when the time is right, and right now, that time is perfect. Cena's farewell tour should end the way his career began, with a reminder that you don't manufacture greatness, you earn it, and Orton has earned the right to send him home. There's something poetic about Orton being the one to do it. Their stories are eternally linked, not just through matches, but through timing. They debuted on the main roster within months of each other, became world champions before turning 30, and held the company on their backs during the lean years. But while Cena was the corporate face, Orton was the counterculture. He was the one the suits couldn't fully control, the wild card who drew crowds because you never knew which version of him would show up. Yet somehow, through all the chaos, Orton endured. Cena climbed because of his polish, but Orton stayed because of his presence. One needed the system to flourish, the other often thrived in spite of it. So if Cena's final story ends with betrayal and ego, it's only fitting that the man who never relied on smoke and mirrors is the one to pull the curtain. When Randy Orton returned to WWE TV and delivered that RKO out of nowhere on Cena, the crowd erupted not out of nostalgia, but out of recognition. It was the sound of clarity, of justice, of poetic reckoning. In that moment, it wasn't just about retribution. It was about reclaiming the narrative. Cena had hijacked the road to legitimacy by aligning with a rapper and taking shortcuts, but Orton's return restored balance. He didn't need an entourage or catchphrases. He needed one move, executed flawlessly, to reset the playing field. That RKO was more than a finisher. It was punctuation, a veteran reminding another that careers, just like matches, should end with dignity, not delusion. Fans cheered because they saw the truth. They've watched Cena talk circles around his opponents for years, spin every situation to his advantage, and smile while doing it. But with Orton, there's no spin. He tells the story with his body, his timing, his cold stare. He doesn't need a press conference to explain his motives. He doesn't need to trend on Twitter to validate his relevance. His silence is louder than Cena's speeches. His RKO says more than 1,000 promos. The fans, especially the ones who've been around long enough to remember ruthless aggression in its infancy, know who the real constant has been. Cena's shifted, rebranded, played to the cameras. Orton, he's remained ice cold, methodical, and menacing. That kind of consistency deserves a reward, and what better reward than being the one to shut the final chapter on the myth of John Cena? This isn't just about Cena's heel turn, it's about how unconvincing and shallow it feels compared to the layers Orton has developed over decades. Cena turning to the dark side at this stage of his career feels like a marketing ploy, a way to juice his farewell tour with artificial heat. It lacks the depth of Orton's heel work, which was always rooted in character, trauma, and psychology. Cena's actions feel forced, as if he's trying to overcompensate for years of being booed despite being presented as a hero. Orton, on the other hand, has always embraced the ambiguity. He's been loved for being vicious, hated for being calculated, but never accused of being fake. That authenticity matters more than ever in a landscape where so many legends hang on long past their expiration dates. John Cena's biggest problem is that he doesn't know how to walk away. He says he's retiring by the end of 2025, but everything about his behavior says otherwise. The politicking, the spotlight hogging, the title chase, all signs of a man unwilling to accept the natural decline. Orton, meanwhile, has taken his breaks, healed his body, and come back not to relive glory, but to write closure. He isn't trying to recapture a moment. He's trying to end one. He's always had the killer instinct, but now it's backed by purpose. There's something almost tragic about watching Cena cling to power when his legacy would be better served by humility. And there's something poetic about Orton being the one to force that humility on him. The crowd dynamics say it all. In years past, Orton was booed for attacking Cena. Now he's cheered, not because he's pandering, but because the fans have grown tired of Cena's contradictions. They see through the facade. Orton has become the voice of the jaded, the frustrated, the disillusioned. Every RKO is a message to the establishment. Enough is enough. If Cena is going to go out, it can't be in a blaze of prepackaged glory. It has to be in a way that feels earned, and there's nobody better than Orton to deliver that ending. Let's not forget the personal stakes. These two men have defined each other's careers, but Cena has always gotten more of the credit, more of the spotlight, more of the acclaim. Orton's story has often been told through comparison, rarely celebration. But the truth is, Randy Orton is arguably the most naturally gifted wrestler of his generation. His timing, his psychology, his poise. He's a master craftsman. While Cena built himself into a powerhouse through sheer force of will, Orton made it look effortless. And for all Cena's accolades, there's something to be said for the man who made every match matter, without needing to dominate the merchandise stand. Orton was never the poster boy, but he was always the standard. WrestleMania 41 marked the start of Cena's farewell tour, but it should end at Backlash. Not because Cena isn't capable, but because the story demands it. Orton is the final boss, not just for Cena, but for everything Cena's become. There's no one else who fits that role. Not Cody, not Roman, not Punk. Orton is the man who's been there since day one, who's suffered the same wars, who's carried the same burdens. This isn't just a rivalry, it's a reckoning. And it has to end with the man who's always embraced who he is, taking down the man who spent his entire career pretending to be someone he wasn't. Cena tried to be the hero for too long, and now he's trying too hard to be the villain. Orton has been both, effortlessly, at the right times. That's what makes him dangerous. That's what makes him believable. Cena's heel turn feels like theater. Orton's presence feels like truth. And when it comes to endings, fans don't want spectacle. They want resolution. They want closure. They want a moment that feels real. That RKO wasn't just a moment. It was a mirror to everything Cena has become and everything Orton has always been. The tragedy of Cena's character is that he doesn't know how to fade gracefully. He still speaks like he's saving the company, even as he drags it down with self-indulgent storylines. Orton, who once burned down the Wyatt compound and committed acts of shocking violence, somehow feels like the more balanced, more grounded option. That's not irony, it's evolution. Cena hasn't evolved, he's just flipped the script. Orton has transformed, matured, and recalibrated, and in doing so, he's become the only person capable of putting an end to this charade with weight and finality. There's also the matter of history. Cena retired Batista, he beat Triple H, he overcame Shawn Michaels. He's had the privilege of closing the book on many greats, but he's never been forced to experience that same fate at the hands of a peer. What better story than for Randy Orton, the man he shared the most ring time with, to return the favor, not as revenge, not as retribution, but as poetic justice, as the man who gets to say, "You're done. Let me be the one to tell you." WWE has always been about moments. The final match of John Cena's career should be one that encapsulates everything he's meant and everything he's lost. If it ends with him standing tall, it feels dishonest. But if it ends with Orton standing over him, no words spoken, just legacy etched in silence, it becomes timeless. Not because it's flashy, but because it's real. Cena's story has always been told in bold strokes. Orton's is painted in shadows. One more moment in the dark is exactly how Cena's spotlight should fade. Randy Orton versus John Cena is not just a match waiting to happen. It's a collision written in legacy, tension, timing, and transformation. For this encounter to materialize in a way that does justice to their storied past and the stakes of the present, WWE must orchestrate a narrative arc rooted in deep emotional stakes, grounded realism, and the sense of inevitability that only comes from two titans with unfinished business. The current landscape of WWE, scarred by Cena's heel turn and Orton's surprise return, has organically opened the door for a final confrontation that doesn't require artificial stakes. It only needs space to breathe. The story already exists. All that's left is the execution. The seeds are already planted. John Cena, fresh off a shocking world title win at WrestleMania 41 by undermining Cody Rhodes with a steel chair and a Travis Scott distraction, stands as the most controversial figure in the company. He's not the hero anymore. He's the tyrant, abusing his legendary status to rewrite his legacy on his terms. He speaks not for the fans, but at them. He doesn't want to elevate talent. He wants to prove he's still above them. That psychological pivot is enough to draw in a man who's watched Cena manipulate perception for 2 decades. Randy Orton, having quietly returned from injury, sees this version of Cena as the ultimate insult. Not because he's turned heel, but because he's pretending that it's evolution rather than regression. For Orton, it's personal, not performative. He doesn't want to expose Cena. He wants to end the myth. A simple RKO isn't enough. Their last dance must be rooted in timing and circumstance, not just nostalgia. So it begins with Orton making a statement, not backstage promos or podcast appearances, but action. During an episode of Raw, Cena delivers one of his trademark sermons about legacy, basking in the spotlight, flanked by a security wall of Travis Scott's entourage and production gimmicks. Suddenly, the lights flicker. Orton appears from the crowd, slithering into the ring like a ghost from Cena's past. The RKO that follows isn't a surprise. It's a message, not just to Cena, but to the entire WWE universe. This won't be a handshake match. This won't be a send-off ceremony. This is war. To make it work, WWE must resist the temptation to overproduce. The story doesn't need run-ins, factions, or convoluted stipulations. It needs space to let two men talk and act like veterans. It needs slow-burning segments that rely on facial expressions, body language, and callbacks not catchphrases. On the next SmackDown, Cena storms into the ring and doesn't cut a promo. He berates the crowd for cheering Orton's attack. He accuses them of being fickle, of forgetting who he carried on his back, and then calls Orton a parasite. Not a legend, not a peer, but a hanger-on who needs Cena's spotlight to shine again. The venom in Cena's tone isn't theatrical, it's personal, and that's exactly how it should feel. So let it be Orton. Let it be the man who's never begged for cheers or ducked boos. Let it be the man who's walked every step of this journey with eyes wide open. Let it be the man who never needed to change who he was to stay relevant. Let it be the man who, with one final RKO, can give John Cena the only thing he truly deserves now: a quiet, definitive end. Not with fireworks, not with speeches, but with closure. That's what Randy Orton brings to the table. That's why he should be the one